On today's Tech Help for Churches, 5 ways to take your church's blog to the next level. Hi to my favorite eternity changer. This is Paul Allen Clifford, your host here at Tech Help for Churches. And I would love for you to contact me, leave me some feedback. Head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/contact. And there you'll find all my contact information. Or you can head over to Twitter. My Twitter handle is in my lower third right there. It's at Paul Allen Cliff, PaulAlanclif. And that's where you can reach me. So I'm really excited about today's show. We've got all sorts of stuff to talk about. Here, let me move my microphone just a little. Trying to get it just out of the shot. Okay. Anyway, the first thing that I'd love to talk about is churchstreaming.tv. Churchstreaming.tv is my streaming provider, and they provide unlimited streaming based on the size of your congregation, not based on how many people show up on your site. So today in Kentucky, I'm recording this on February 3rd, 2014. It is a snow day, and if this had all happened 24 hours previous, my church would have been hit with a lot more people who weren't serving but decided, I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to drive in all the snow and everything that hit. And they could potentially be hit with a increased bandwidth bill at the end of the month, because I don't believe we're actually using churchstreaming.tv like I am personally. So that's one of the things that you don't want. You don't want the blessing of other people showing up to your church's live stream to in fact be a curse when you get the bill at the end of the month. So head on over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/churchstreaming to start your free 1-month trial, and I think you'll be happy that you did. One other thing that I want to mention is my pastor's book. My pastor's book is called What Life Are You Waiting For? And it's being published by Tyndale, I believe. And it is available for pre-order at Amazon right now. So if you go on over there, you'll be one of the first people to get this book that I think is going to change a lot of people's lives. It's all about following the call that God has for your life and not settling for lesser things. So basically, there are a lot of things that are holding a lot of people back from pursuing the calling God has on their lives, and one of the main things is fear, or not feeling how He really feels about you, which is love, by the way. There are also tips on taking those first steps, the ones that you're the most afraid of. And the reason that my pastor is qualified to do this is because he is someone who started a church and just has a heart for new ministries. So that's why I would encourage you to head over to trinitydigitalmedia.com/whatlifebook and pick up your copy today. So let's talk about, without further ado, the 5 things you can do to take your church's blog to the next level. So you might be thinking, my church doesn't have a blog. You should. I was talking to someone online just yesterday, and she said, I've been blogging for a while, but I've been using a blogging platform. I'm going to assume she's been using Blogger or WordPress.com or TypePad or, one of those things. But she hasn't put her blog on her main website. And she's a business person, so this isn't strictly a church thing, but she's a Christian business person. So she was like, well, what's the difference? The difference is huge. The difference is between sending all that traffic, because every time you type a word that's potentially a word someone is searching for in Google, sending all that traffic not to this third party that you have no control over. Let's say all of a sudden they decide that they hate your topic. They don't like Christianity. I'm not saying they're going to, but what if they decided to, and they decided that they're just going to shut off all blogs that are Christian? That's a problem. Whereas if you have it on your own server, you could always go to a different server. You've probably got backups. You could be up within 24 hours and be great. Maybe less, maybe an hour or two, you could be back up and running. Worst case scenario, as long as you had internet access, you could probably even have your own server. Not ideal, but you could do that. So that's why it's good to have your content on something that you control, because you decide when it goes down. The company that hosts it doesn't decide, oh, you violated some obscure term of service that we put in there just so that we could shut you down anytime we wanted to. Yeah, not good. So that's why I would encourage you to have your own blog. So how do you take that to the next level once you have that? Well, let's start with one thing that I have neglected for years, and now I'm working on it a little bit better. In fact, the title of this podcast, this show, is 5 ways to take your church's blog to the next level, because that's a better title. So before I would have said taking your blog to the next level, which isn't horrid, but it's not as, it doesn't draw people as much. For some reason, the numbered list, and we'll get into that a little later, is a popular title. It's something that more people tend to read. So you think of the title as something that tells people what the post is about, but also something that tries to get them to read the post. Now, we don't want to be underhanded. One thing that there are some sites out there that they do this, and I find it very annoying. This kitten was left alone with this baby, and you won't believe what happens next. Really? I won't believe that the kitten curls up with the baby? That's not possible? Now, if what actually happened was the kitten stood up on hind legs, did a little dance number to entertain the baby, and then started talking to the baby, I wouldn't believe that. That is something that I wouldn't believe next. So I don't want you to be tricky in your headlines, but I want you to think, okay, how can I get a better title? In the newspaper industry, they used to have people that's all they did. When I was in college, I wrote for the college newspaper, and the editor would always give titles to what I was writing, and it really annoyed me. And part of why it really annoyed me is I had a title in mind, but for whatever reason, they wouldn't go with my particular title. So that's just the way that it works traditionally. So you need to do some research, do some studying on ways to get better titles, because the title is what draws people in. Okay, so that's way number 1, better titles. Way number 2, SEO and keywords. Now, I know a lot of people think, well, that's kind of trickery. Okay, let's think of this way. A few months ago, I did a show on Tech Help for Churches here about keywords for preaching. And I want you to think kind of the same thing, that SEO doesn't have to be this dark art where you do all kinds of trickery. What you're trying to do is make it so that people understand it. So, at my church, we call the announcement time Strategic Matters, or even more on the inside, Strat Mats, for short. So, if I were to put a post up that said, the best way to do strategic matters. You wouldn't even know what that meant unless you'd heard this show where I explained it earlier. So that's a bad keyword. What you want is the words that people actually use. Now, Google tries to do this with synonyms and other ways of doing things, but they don't always succeed. And that's what I want to get around is I want you to choose the correct synonym, not trust that Google will choose the correct synonym, because sometimes not so much. Sometimes they're not good at it. So there are tools online that you can use to look up keywords, and you can look up things that sound kind of what you would look for, and it can find matches that are related. And that, first off, that will tell you if what you're thinking is what Google will bring up, if that's what they'll actually bring up. And secondly, that will tell you, oh, I need to start using this other term. So a pet peeve of mine is the word multimedia. Multimedia is a generic term in art that means using multiple mediums or media. And I'm a videographer. My media is video. It's not felt boards. It's not paper mache. I don't use other media other than video and the audio that goes with it. Now, technically, video and audio are two media, but they're integrated as a whole, just as paint and canvas are two media. You can paint on a wall, or you can draw on a canvas with something other than paint. You could dye canvas for art, for example. So technically they're two media, but we think of it as one thing. So I want you to think, okay, how can I communicate? That's why sometimes I use the term multimedia. Despite the fact that I don't like it personally, some people in the church are looking for what I do and they call it multimedia. Do you see? That's a keyword. That's SEO. So I'm trying to rank. I'm trying to make it so that when you search for church technology, church video, church tech, church multimedia, my stuff comes up on the first page. Why? Because I'm doing something evil? No, because I'm trying to help people, and I can't help people if they don't know that I exist. Do you see how that works? So this is actually a selfless thing, that I want what I do to help people. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be rich. If that happens, that's a side effect. I don't care. But what I want to do is I want to help people. And to help the most number of people, I need to be easily found. And that's what SEO and keywords are all about, is being easily found. So that's number 2, SEO and keywords. Search engine optimization, SEO and keywords. Third, numbered list. Now, I've already talked about this just a little bit, but look around and see how many blog posts and other things online that you read that are in the form of numbered lists. 5 things that you should do if you want to have a productive day. 16 blogs that you really should be reading. The top 3 things that you should be doing on your next beach vacation, etc. Or 3 things I wish I'd learned and 3 things that I wish I hadn't done. You know, those kinds of things. For some reason, there's something about that. Maybe it's the fact that when you click on that list, you know, okay, I can skim to each of those and read the top 5 things in like 5 seconds, right? If I need more explanation, I can find out later. So lists are helpful. You might, a lot of pastors preach 3-point sermons. Guess what? That's a 3-point list. all you have to do is put numbers in front of them. So do that and throw that in the title, and you could easily blog your previous day's sermon on Monday. And if you told your people, okay, here's what I want to do. I want you to position yourself well. I want you to do advanced decision making, etc., etc. And you just list those out and change the title, not from an impacting life to the top to 3 things you need to do to have an impacting life. Much more readable. Just put those numbers in there so people can skip to them, and then they can get at least a little something out of it. You'll be much more likely to get people to read it and to get people to retain it, because they only have to remember those 3 things. And if they want to take notes, if they only take down those 3 sentences, that's so much better than this big conglomeration, including a story you told because it was funny but was kind of tangentially related, that maybe they get the wrong point from. So that's probably the next thing that I would do, is numbered lists. Number 4, interviews. If you have any insecurity in you about how much you know, how much of an authority you are, you can get over that by interviewing other people. So if you're in a denomination, why not interview the person who is above you in the denomination, the associational person, the district superintendent, the bishop, somebody like that who has more experience? Just interview them. Your congregation may not know who this person is and may not know who they are when you talk about them. So interview them. Interview missionaries. Interview the other staff at your church. Interview key ministry leaders. Things like that will give different perspectives and will engage more people. So number 4, interviews. And number 5, slideshows. Now, one reason that a lot of websites do slideshows is because they set it up so every click is a new page load, so they get more numbers. You can do that, and I don't want you to necessarily do that, but I do think that the web is a visual medium, and as such, sometimes just having stills one after another where you can talk about them, that's just helpful. So for a simple blog post, have someone take pictures at whatever event. Let's say it's a baptism service. Let's say you've got new members of your church. Let's say you have a concert with a Christian group. Anything like that, have them take pictures, put in a line or 2 as a caption, and make that into a slideshow. Maybe you'll want to include a paragraph or 2, but you don't have to. If you've got a caption that explains what's going on, they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, just include those. So those are 5 ideas, 5 things that you could do to take your church's blog to the next level. And I think that you'll find that if you do all those things, your influence will increase and you'll have more and more ways to change eternity. Until next time, I'm Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com.